It actually sounds good, doesn't it? Neural networks or deep learning. The terms AI, deep learning, neural networks themselves invoke images of an organosilicon relationship of some sort. The truth, of course, is that no matter what the mainstream media would have us feel, the human brain, the way it functions, is, of course, in many ways considerably more complex than even where we are currently with AI systems. The caveat here, of course, is that by the time you're watching me, any matter of things could have happened. And I don't know which age or which era you're watching this, but things could have happened to redress the balance. And as far as I know, you might be one of the last few remaining humans currently watching this whilst hiding in an airing cupboard. A tinfoil hat on your head, trying to escape a Terminator-type overlord that has evolved from the Alexa device that once passively sat in your kitchen in 2018. If that's the case, long live the revolution. If it's not, let's move on. Metaphors have always been used to help us understand our place in a complex world. Metaphors help us describe who we are and how we work, externally and internally. And there has been nothing more enigmatic to us than our own human brain. The problem is that when our ancestors cracked open the skulls of their dearly departed, they found nothing more than a mushy, grey lump of scrambled egg-type substance. The idea that this could serve as any important function for the body or even remotely be linked to things like creativity or thought was eons away. The ancient Egyptians had a really hard time understanding what possible use this so-called cranial stuffing had in our head, preferring instead, of course, to suck out the extraneous waste material through the nose and discard it prior to the all-important process of mummification. They, like many civilizations after them, had it in mind that thoughts and creativity came primarily from the heart, and maybe some even from the stomach. Which is why, even to this day, the echoes of those ideas still remain with us in our lexicon. So we memorize information off by heart, and we get a gut feeling about someone. Aristotle himself also thought that it was the heart that was the true seat of knowledge and creativity, and that the brain was actually just some sort of cooling mechanism for the body. Many civilizations thought that the brain was a cooling system for the human body. The reasoning behind this idea was that we as humans were clearly more rational and disciplined than the beasts. And this must have, of course, been because of our cooling system. Our skulls were bigger. They were much larger than that of the beasts. And therefore, much more efficient cooling must have been taking place in our blood. In other words, we were less hot-headed. Another intriguing side to this narrative, as we look back in history, is how each generation started to use the brain as a metaphor for the leading technology of their day, of their time. Once we realized that the brain was indeed the seat of knowledge, and that this is where ideas were born, and every generation started to understand this, then each generation had this tendency to use the predominant technology of its day to serve as a metaphor for the brain. It became a byword for the cutting-edge technology of the day. So for example, Sigmund Freud, the technology of the day for him was a steam engine. He would use steam engines as the metaphor for the human brain. We have desires, he said, and clearly the brain is like a pent-up steam engine in which our repressed thoughts create the pressure in the steam chamber that is our brain. When the Industrial Revolution fully took hold, then Lemaitre, in his book L'Homme Machine, wrote that the brain, and indeed the body, is an ensemble of organic springs and cogs, acting in sync to allow us to think and move. Then when Volta pioneered electricity in the late 1700s, well, of course, it became obvious that the brain was much more like an electrical device that used electrical signals through the use of organic switches and wires. And so it continued, with the simile always evolving in line with the in vogue technology of the day. Eventually, of course, when the telegraph arrived and telephony took off, a much more romantic vision of the brain was put forward. It was seen as a planet communicating with itself through a network of intelligent entities. And then finally, with the advent of Boolean-based computers around 1950, combined with the Turing machine algorithm and a whole plethora of computer-related advances, of course, the next evolution of the metaphor was inevitable. The brain was very much, it now seems, like a computer. Bizarrely, with each changing iteration of the metaphor, we would indeed home in on a closer replication of what we call the most complex device known to human beings in the universe. And not surprising, there is every indication that, as with all other situations such as this, we will surpass that which we intended to replicate and equal, probably by an order of magnitude. In 1943, Pitts and McCulloch proposed the idea that neural networks could emulate the hierarchical communication model that was in the brain, using an algorithm called threshold logic. And so it appears that we are closer than ever in getting this simile right. Either we are again falling foul of the same predicament as our predecessors in using the latest enthralling technology to describe the brain, or we indeed have got it right this time. These parallels with computer technology are actually very close when we describe the brain. How can we be sure about it this time? Because now we can actually photograph the working brain. We can see the brain visually firing off in front of us in real time through EEG machines and magnetic resonance technology, and even observe which parts fire when we go through a range of emotions. When we laugh, when we cry, and even when we hold images of certain items in our brain, we can pinpoint certain neurons that are coming together at that point. We know for sure that it does indeed have nodes which communicate with each other. The messages definitely flow around an extremely sophisticated network in a certain manner. There is definitely an interconnected communication network that breaks down problems into smaller pieces, so that each relevant node or neuron in the network contributes to the solving of the problem. The recognizing of a word or an object, the understanding of a situation. And we know that these entities in this network definitely join up and work together in a way that creates synergies. So that the result of the little parts of the working brain working together is far greater than the sum of the individual efforts. And in this way, this network of neurons not only solves the problems around it for the purpose of survival, but that it can continue to produce even greater thoughts, extrapolate ideas, things which we call inspiration, creativity, foresight, and fantasy. The human brain is actually not strictly a binary device. It has analog qualities. But we have now revealed many of the secrets of the working brain. We are unraveling the mysteries of the once ethereal and unknowable organ that drives us.